Today we're taking a look at one of the highest scoring robots in the Decode season, and one that had a really clever and successful double park mechanism.
Goes out like this.
Now, the purpose of FTC Robots Revealed is to get an up-and-close, personal look at how these different mechanisms work on some really high-functioning robots so that you can take a look at these and use them to improve your own designs.
I love how easy it is for you guys to access your control hubs.
This is team 19256, CyberMoon, and we're taking a look at them from the EU Premier event where they ended up being the winning alliance out of both divisions.
They got some plasma cut steel here for your flywheel.
They've got a whole whackload of clever mechanisms on this thing. Some ways of assuring they have the correct amount of compression on a ball as it intakes.
Movable intake, like it's actuated by one servo. We can put it in a position.
Some non-standard materials, a super efficient flywheel design, and a wicked cool double park mechanism.
And when we want to shoot, we couple the PTO and the stopper automatically deactivates. It goes into this position.
Oh, and I'm Coach Pratt. I've been teaching robotics since I'm for over a decade now, and I've mentored FTC teams to winning national championships in our region.
Tell me about your approach to this season. What's your robot all about?
So from the beginning of the season, we realized we wanted a straightforward robot. Like we wanted to maximize transfer time and shooting speed. That's why we decided to not integrate sorting mechanism. We have intake mechanism, a ramp, and a shooting system that consistently shoots 3 artifacts in 0.2 seconds, thanks to our PTO on the last stage.
All right, so let's talk about your intake then. How do you actually get the artifact into the robot?
Yeah, so we have a movable intake, like it's actuated by one servo. We can put it in a position to choose the compression on the artifacts. After that, the intake stays in that position and it's rotated by one motor right under here. This motor, it actuates the first 2 stages. This one is full of geckos and a little bit of silicone tubing on the side. And the other one is just made of silicone tubing. That's for collecting. And when we want to actually shoot the artifacts, the third stage couples. We have a PTO system that couples the third stage to the same motor. So we actually don't use 2 motors on our intake. And it activates. And that way we can shoot our artifacts from the intake to the outtake.
And it's just a little chain that ends up getting that? Like it's just a little gear that flips down? Or would we...
No, actually, it's a dog coupling mechanism. Like
okay.
It couples the last stage and then it's... the PTO fully rotates every time we spin the motor, but we only couple it to the last stage when we want to shoot. So it's a dog coupling mechanism, like 4 screws hit their heads together and
it's like a dog clutch.
A dog clutch. Yeah. And after that, the stopper right here on the outtake opens, so we're able to shoot.
Now on your intake, I noticed that on your second roller here, you have some silicone tubing, but you also have what looks like gas line.
Yeah.
Is that an intentional choice?
Yes, that's an intentional choice. The silicone tubing is a little bit too soft to be fully put on the second stage, and the gas tubing is a little bit harder, so it actually pushes the artifacts closer to the stopper, because otherwise, because our PTO is stationary during collection, the artifacts would not reach high enough into the robot. So that little bit of gas line actually pushes the artifacts upwards to the outlet. So we can collect more easily off the field because the artifacts don't get stuck around the second stage.
And it looks like you have basically a large ramp that scoops the balls up and into your intake.
Yeah, this is a 3D printed ramp. We decided to 3D print it to reduce the weight of the robot. It's just a ramp that collects the artifacts. It's really close to the ground, so the artifacts don't have any problem climbing it.
And then you said you had like a little gate mechanism here. How does this stop the balls from getting up and in?
Yeah, so when we don't want to shoot, we are just collecting. The stopper mechanism just stays kind of in this position, so the artifacts can't touch the flywheel. And when we want to shoot, we couple the PTO and the stopper automatically deactivates. It goes into this position, so the artifacts can just shoot out.
And that's this little servo motor right here runs that gear that then runs that around.
It's a 1-to-1 run, so...
And it's quite quick.
It's quite quick,
kick it up and around. And then you have it on a turret. Looks like you have a herringbone gear mechanism.
Yes, we do have a herringbone gear mechanism. It's right here in the back. It's actuated by 2 servos. It has overdrive right here. So this is the gears that move the servos. And then on reduction right here on the herringbone.
Yep.
So it's actually 1-to-1. In the end stage is 1-to-1, so we can move 360 degrees. Of course, we have a 5-degree safe zone, so the launcher doesn't do this.
And how are you keeping track of that safe zone? Is it a sensor? Is it an encoder on those motors? How are you doing that?
The servos know their position at all times, and we just use two limits to the left and to the right, so it doesn't get in that zone.
Yeah.
So you're running both these servos in positional mode then?
Yeah.
Okay. How many degrees of freedom do you need on that then? Is it a 360-degree servo?
Yes, this is the new Exxon MK2 model. So they have a 360 degrees freedom of motion. And that's why we have the 5-degree limit. So they don't go over and try and spin again back in position. So they stop around like here or here. So that's how it works.
And then I'm noticing all your electronics, you already got a cable chain. How do you stop that from getting stuck on your robot?
So at the beginning, we thought about chain drag mechanism, like the big ones, the big 3D printed ones, but realized we don't have the space for that. So we just implemented a keychain mechanism. Basically, this is a keychain that follows the cable around. And if it doesn't let it go out of bounds because it just strings it back into place.
Kind of like what you see on security guards.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see on security guards. So it also helps this cable not interfere with other parts of the outtake, like the motors. If it gets like around here, it just springs back into place like you just saw. So it can't go in here and block the motors because it just goes back.
Now there's a whole whack load going on here. You clearly got some plasma cut steel here for your flywheel, but then you also have a whole bunch of belts and different things going on, and a changing angle hood. Looks like a passive roll or an active roller. Tell me about how your flywheel functions.
So first of all, yes, we do have a flywheel. It's composed of 2 Rhino wheels from GoBuilder, but it also have about 720 grams of added steel mass for keeping the inertia, so we can shoot consistently both from close but also from far. And besides this, we implemented an active counterroller that's 1-to-1. So this is the 2 motors that drive the outtake, the first stage. And then we have a belt connected right here from the main shaft to another stage. And here we have gears to reverse the motion of the counterroller. So when this one spins, the counterroller also moves and gives it just enough spin to counteract the jumping from the...
That was a lot to pass through. So you have 2 motors here, one on each side. This one has a 1-to-1 belt.
Yeah.
This is on the same axle.
On the same axle.
That runs over here through a gear to reverse yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this is your counter roller up there.
And it's all 1-to-1.
Okay.
So it's 6,000. Max RPM is 6,000. But yeah.
Okay. And you're running 2 bare motor 6,000s.
Yeah. 2 bare motor 6,000.
And then how does your hood actually move up and down? It's with this little servo here?
Yeah, it's a servo right here. We calculated the reduction for it to be able to move 360 degrees, even though we didn't really need it. But it just chooses the angle so we can shoot from anywhere on the field.
Very cool. And then how does your robot know where the April tag is at the front? How does it know where the goal is?
So we
don't really need to know where the April tag is. We just use the pinpoint. It's enough. In previous versions, we used the limelight, but it had some measurement noise. Then due to different lighting conditions, we couldn't really use it efficiently. So we just remained on the pinpoint with 2 dead wheels, and that works just fine.
Yeah, we also implemented like driver offset. If you see a little small difference in the speed or position of the turret, we don't immediately go to reset it because that would take a lot of time. We firstly offset it if it's small enough to be offsetted. But yeah, so that's why we don't really need limelight.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious. I just noticed.
Yeah.
You've got something running on here. What is this?
Oh, yeah. So
what is that for?
So in the previous version of this robot, we did have a custom swerve drivetrain, but because of the high power consumption and the hard maneuverability, we decided to change to Mecanum. But because the rebuild time was too little, we only had about 1 month to fully rebuild. We chose Mecanum modules. These are custom modules. Yeah. So they are kind of just like swerve modules, but they're just Mecanum. So it's a dead axle right here. It's connected to the sides of the robot, and the Mecanum module with the motors in this position. Some gear reduction over here, and the bevel gear with another reduction that transfers the movement to 90 degrees.
So it's a bit of clever packaging.
Yeah, it's a clever packaging to try and implement a new robot as fast as possible.
Yes, I love it.
Changing a lot of it.
I love it. I also got to say, I love how easy it is for you guys to access your control hubs and stuff with just a simple little panel that clips off.
Yeah, it actually, this is like mounted to the panel that clips off. So when we just take out, we can see all the cables, and only 2 screws hold the control hub, and you can take it all off. Like if you need to service like the hang mechanism or the flip mechanism, sorry, we can just take off the control hubs and service.
I absolutely love that. So, and then it's facing out too, so your Wi-Fi is not blocked by these large aluminum sections.
Yes,
absolutely fantastic. So many teams don't think about that kind of stuff. And then this is a protected power switch on the back end side. Yes.
In the beginning of the season, a lot of teams that use silicone tubing, actually, if we encounter them on the field, they sometimes press the switch. And stop the robot. So we put a little protection here. So it's harder for them to do that.
And then you guys have a really interesting park mechanism as well. You want to talk about that? Because you have an entire plate that lifts your whole robot up.
It's a pretty unique park mechanism. So so we have our robot, we have a parking platform that goes out like this. Our robot stays in this position by itself on the field, and our alliance partners just have to sit with one wheel on the platform, and our robot goes to 90 degrees and allows them to fully park. As you can see, the robot doesn't touch the ground right here. So yeah, that's how we basically do the parking.
Yes. Yeah, it's very... And then what is actually driving that power? How do you actually flip yourself?
Yeah, so we have in the back here really compacted. If you can see here, it's an Axon servo on the side, and another one right here. It's really...
Oh, way back there.
Yeah, way back there. It's really here.
Okay,
And on the other side as well. That has pulley on it and some string. We have some pulley reductions, including a movable pulley right here. So in the end, it gives us a 7-to-1 reduction.
Okay. So you're using steel cable.
Yeah, we're using steel cables. It's a steel cable because we realized like string could break, may break.
Yes.
So you say to be sure and use steel cable to be sure it won't break.
Very clever. I like that.
So actually these systems allows us to park in about 2 seconds maybe. Like, of course, in the match it takes about 7 to position, but because gravity actually helps us from a certain point. Because when we flip about here, the rest of the flip is mostly done by gravity.
Very cool. And then what are you guys most proud of on this robot?
On this one, I think the parking mechanism, which is really unique, like we didn't see it on many robots at all this season. And also the use of the PTO, like most teams use the PTO. On the parking mechanism, we decided to use one less motor and use the PTO on the intake for better power consumption during the match.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing this robot, guys. You should be really proud of that.
Thank you so much.